Of the dozens of cars that I've driven in recent months, there is one category that I keep recommending, and it is hybrids. It's because they are so cheap to run and convenient, and hybrids come in mild, right the way through to plug-in, and even super hybrid form. And if you don't know what that means or which one's right for you, don't worry, I will be explaining throughout this video, starting with the Hyundai Tucson plug-in, because yes, this is a proper plug-in hybrid, meaning it's the most efficient form of hybrid you can get. And that also means in this car, we've got a healthy 265 horsepower, so it's punchy, it looks great. And also because this is a proper SUV, it's functional too. But really what stands out on this car and why we're recommending it is because it also has 38 miles of purely electric range. And it produces way under 50 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning this qualifies for the £10 car tax discount. So it is the most efficient way to do hybrid without going fully electric. Now, on paper, this Tucson plug-in will achieve 200 miles per gallon. Yeah, I like to be a little bit more realistic than the paperwork, which is why you should actually be subscribed to our channel, so I can explain to you in detail what you're really going to get in real life. Now, if you were to have one of these and your commute was short, say 10 miles each way, or if you only use the car to drop the kids to school, then yes, you could lean in to the electric power of this car and you could charge it up in about 2 hours, depending on what you have at home as your plug. And then yes, of course, then you wouldn't really have to fuel it up ever. But most people are going to be doing a few more miles now and then. And in that case, you can still expect to achieve about 40 miles per gallon, which is really good for a family car. But of course, the best way to drive this car, the best way to get efficiency out of it is to constantly charge it at home or wherever you can. And then you will get the maximum efficiency. And talking of chargers, every plug-in hybrid car will come with a pair of these. Now, this one might look a bit more familiar because you'll recognise, if you're a UK viewer, the 3-pin plug here. And that's because you can charge your plug-in hybrid car just using your conventional domestic plug. It will be the slower way to do it, but if you charge overnight, this will probably do you just fine. But if you want a faster charge, well, then this is definitely the preferred option. It looks like the one you get on a proper EV, and some home chargers actually come with these built in. So if you need a quicker charge, this is the preferred one to go for. But either way, here's a bit of buyer advice. Now, if you're looking at a plug-in hybrid, what you want to do is make sure that there's actually a bit of room under the boot floor to hide them away, to stop them from sliding around. Thankfully, in this Hyundai, there's just about enough room. Now, remember I said that you could get away with a small commute or a school run by just using electric power? In this Tucson, it's really easy to do that because when you've got charge, all you have to do is press this button down here and it tells the car you want to stay just using the battery. Do that and well, you're effectively driving an electric car. And you can make things even better and even more efficient because they've fitted these paddles here and they effectively allow you to control the amount that the braking is able to recharge the battery. Now, if you just want to select and forget, you can do that. But if you're a hybrid nerd like me, you can actually adjust on the go as well, maximizing your efficiency and your range, and of course, reducing any potential fuel costs while you're at it. This is a really smart car. And of course, if you can't be bothered to do the thinking, it will do it for you. It can just juggle the petrol and electric very smartly on its own. But really, this car just feels like great hybrid quality. And that's true also when you look around the cabin. I love the fit and finish in this front here, and in the back, there is plenty of room. It's a smart car, this Tucson.
Next from the plugins on our hybrid list, MG's new HS plug-in hybrid is a fantastic example of part petrol, part electric SUV because it has a 75-mile electric range to go with its nippy 300 horsepower performance. Sure, it's not as sharp to drive and the interior is nice rather than posh, but at £31,500 new, it represents great value. Plus, if you're happy to go with the older HS, you can half that price on cinch. Or, for about the same money as a new HS plug-in, you can access Audi's plug-in hybrid Q3, which doesn't have as much electric range, but is highly desirable for its looks and swanky interior. In fact, the same can be said for the Range Rover Evoque plug-in, which is probably about as fashionable as hybrid SUVs can get.
But what if you don't have access to a home charger or you just don't want to have to faff with charge cables at all? Well, that brings me to this, a full hybrid car illustrated by the Ford Kuga, because this has a petrol and an electric setup as well, but it doesn't need any intervention from you to get its efficiency out of it. Now, the key advantage for a hybrid versus a plug-in hybrid, it's that you don't have to find a place for your charge cables, and in almost all cases, you will gain back a lot of underfloor storage because the batteries are much smaller in these hybrid cars, so they're much more functional in that sense. There are some disadvantages. I mean, the obvious one, of course, is that you don't get your super low emission car tax reduction, although these are cheaper to buy on average, and you also don't get some kind of crazy on paper mile per gallon figure. But real world, this car will do about 50 miles per gallon, so it's still very efficient. But the main reason this car is on our list is because it combines that hybrid ease of use with some of the best handling in this class. In fact, this Kuga arguably is the best car to drive when it comes to the fun stuff versus all of its rivals. And that is doubly true if you go for the even sportier ST line model. That will please you, and maybe it will please the dogs in the back because the car won't roll around so much, although it does compromise a bit on overall comfort. I actually would recommend going for something like this Vignale model because you get this slightly more uplifted interior, but you still get that good driving character. You also get all of the tech you're going to need in this very functional interior. And talking of functional, by the way, the Kuga in hybrid form can tow 1.6 tons of brake trailer, so this is really a very usable hybrid car.
The Nissan Qashqai e-Power goes about things differently from most in the hybrid SUV world because it uses petrol power to charge its battery and then electric power to drive the wheels. That means it's a self-charging hybrid that feels like an EV on the road, but you fuel it entirely with petrol. It looks and drives great too, hence why it was my hybrid car of the year in 2024. Kia also knows a thing or two about hybrids, and both its Sportage and Niro use electrification brilliantly. The smaller Niro has a highly efficient full hybrid version, while the bigger Sportage has an economical mild hybrid setup. Both are enormously sensible, although there's one Kia that adds a whole lot of plushness to that family trait.
The next car on our list is a hybrid that packs so much kit, it's up there with the likes of a Bentley, and it's got 7 seats. Now, normally with a car as well equipped as this Kia Sorento, you'd need a big thirsty engine, or maybe the car would come with a smaller engine that's worked so hard it would basically be thirsty as well. But thanks to the power of hybrid, this little 1.6 litre, well, it works alongside an electric motor, so it can still achieve a real world 40 miles per gallon. And yes, you can get even more if you go for the Sorento's plug-in hybrid version, but the ease of use with just this straight up hybrid, it's unquestionable. And no clearer is that than in the interior, because honestly, you get as much kit on this car as you would do in a proper luxury SUV. There is so much functionality in here. It feels like the designers have kids and big families themselves, and they've packed this car with every feature you'd ever need. All right, yeah, some of the materials aren't quite up to the top standard, but it feels very well built. And really, as a hybrid buyer, it's likely that you're going to be happy that they've chosen functionality over form in some areas. And that's just up front. Because back here, we've got a third row of seating. And guess what? You're not short on creature comforts. And because this is the regular hybrid rather than the plug-in hybrid Sorento, it means you don't have charge cables to throw into the boot. Plus, even with those rear seats in place, you've still got enough room for maybe your kids' sportswear or even the weekly shop.
Another big hybrid SUV from Korea is the boldly designed Hyundai Santa Fe, which folds a square body and enormous interior over a clever plug-in hybrid base. A 30-ish mile electric range is nothing to write home about, but 40 miles per gallon from such a big car ain't too shabby. Of course, if you like big premium hybrid cars, it's impossible to ignore the plug-in Mercedes GLC. Not just because it's handsome and posh inside, but also because it has an 80-mile electric range. That means most journeys can be had without waking the petrol motor. We're certainly not short of choice in self-charging hybrids, and small SUVs like the Renault Captur show how far things have come. The recently updated model is as handsome outside as it is plush inside, and its e-tech powertrain is pleasingly punchy. Of course, the Honda HR-V is also a top-selling car in this world, and for good reason. It's enormously sensible and capable of over 50 miles per gallon.
Now, this wouldn't be a hybrid SUV list without a Toyota, which is why we brought along the Lexus NX. Yeah, it's because some of you will know that Lexus is of course the premium arm of Toyota, and they know a thing or two about hybrids. I mean, they were the pioneers that made this category popular. And this car, as a result, lets you have your cake and eat it, because it packs a 2.5 litre engine, but with hybrid tech, it will still average a real world 50 miles per gallon. But of course, with cake, there are calories, and in this car's case, it comes in the form of slightly higher than average tax. So some of you might want to consider if you're looking at one of these. Inside, this is one tasty cake because just like a lovely cake, this has layers to its interior. There are different materials and they feel really nice. It's really soft and premium. And yes, okay, there are a heck of a lot of buttons, but it does feel really old school and really usable because of it. Look, we've got a CD player in here, and in the boot, we've even got a spare tire. That's properly old school. Of course, you don't just have to enjoy looking at the dash, you can also enjoy looking at yourself because you've got a mirror in here. But most importantly, because this is a hybrid, you've got these paddles on the wheel over here. They allow you to adjust the amount of energy that can be brought back into the battery when you're braking. So that's a nice trick to improve efficiency. And I have to say, this interior overall is really very airy, helped in no small part by the massive panoramic sunroof. The next hybrid on our list is unique not only because it looks more like a hatchback than an SUV, but also because it's one of those mild hybrids I mentioned earlier, but it's one that puts full hybrids to shame, because this Mazda CX-30 will do a real-world fuel economy of around 47 miles per gallon. And that is just one of several reasons why I really like its hybrid setup. The main reason for me, at least, is this thing here, because this is a wiggly stick, also known as a manual. And in the CX-30 mild hybrid, well, it makes the car a lot more engaging to drive. And that's doubly true, actually, because of the thing in the front. It's a nice revvy engine. It's really free revving and much more engaging than any of the other mild hybrids in the class. And yes, of course, you can get a CX-30 with an automatic, but this is what sets it apart from rivals, and also something that helps it to keep up in the fight against very competitive cars like, for example, the Citroën C3 Aircross, which actually has more space in the back. But if you're not concerned about all the room, well, I think the fact that this car has a really driver-centric setup up front is a real key point. I mean, all the switches and dials, they're all angled perfectly at you, and you even get a rotary control for the infotainment system. It's not a touchscreen, but it's much easier to use this down here. Plus, it looks really nice in here. So overall, you've got fun and usability and driver feel, but you still have that very sensible mild hybrid fuel economy.
Handily, the CX-30 isn't the only driver-centric hybrid out there, because the Cupra Formentor mild hybrid is a sporty SUV with an efficient setup and low-slung driving position. This is also true for the BMW X1 xDrive 30e, because it not only has way over 300 horsepower, but it can also do over 50 miles in electric mode. Then there's the Peugeot 2008, which with a mild hybrid setup feels more conveniently petrol, but is lighter and more agile on its toes as a result. Which brings me onto the fastest hybrid of our list, a proper super SUV that mixes turbocharged V6 power with a whole lot of electric muscle for a 520 horsepower output. The Porsche Cayenne SE hybrid might cost 100 grand new, but there's no questioning its super performance. The Renault Rafale plug-in, on the other hand, is a super hybrid, not super SUV, meaning its use of electrification focuses on efficiency above all else. As I found out during our recent drive, this French family car makes saving fuel a doddle, meaning a 600+ mile range between fill-ups is easily achievable. I'm a big fan of Renault's super hybrid, although if the Porsche was in my budget, I think I might struggle to ignore it.
Honestly, that Porsche Cayenne plug-in is so thrilling, it's more exciting than some actual sports cars. And if you want to know what it's like to drive, and in fact what any of these cars are like, ask me in the comments below and I will get back to you. But if you need more inspiration, don't forget there are plenty of SUVs that don't have hybrid power, and we have highlighted them in these videos here.